the October meeting of the Wood County Board of Supervisors to order. I would ask that the clerk please take the roll. We have excused today Supervisors Mahan and Supervisors Hamilton. And at this time, I would call on Supervisor Joseph to please come forward for the invocation. I would ask the body to please rise and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Always want to genuflect.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Just take a little brief moment to remember the terrible tragedy out in Las Vegas earlier, if you would please. And also remember the 4 soldiers that died in Somalia. Lord, God of creation, may we always proclaim your love for all you created, especially all human life. Father, we offer you the souls of all our departed brothers and sisters who paid the ultimate sacrifice while protecting our freedom, while serving in the armed forces, and those who served as police officers, firefighters, and medical emergency responders. May they forever experience your love and our gratitude. In your hands, Lord, are the hearts of the powerful. Bestow your wisdom upon government leaders. May they draw from the fountain of your counsel and please you in thought and deed. Make our work today benefit the residents of Wood County, that with them and for them, we may build an earthly city pleasing to you. Yes, Lord, help us to be preachers of your love for all mankind. While doing so, let us remember the words of Francis of Assisi, who said, "Preach God's good news of love at all time, and if necessary, use words." Amen.
Please join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and I want to thank everybody for their attendance today. Got a few things on the agenda here, and we're going to jump around a little bit with your permission. We have a special order of business. We've had a major change to the university system with the colleges and extension, and I have Dean Montgomery here who will speak to that for a moment, just to give you a little heads up where that's headed. We did get the update from Lisa. I would like to ask you to not have any interaction with the juries that we have out in the hallways. We have a lot of jurors out there. No interaction with the juries. And admonished on that when you're ready. I guess with that, and at this point we'll go to the minutes of the previous session. I need a motion to approve it, and one by Supervisor Fire and a second by Supervisor Curry. Any discussion on those minutes? All in favor of approval, please signify by aye. Aye. And opposed, same sign, and that motion carries. The excusals are noted on the board up there. Today, resignations. And I want to explain this a little bit. We had a number of TIDs and TIFs out there, and we typically appointed the local supervisor who represented that district to those boards or to those districts. In cleaning those up, some of those have expired, some of them just don't exist. There were a lot of names there, and as you see under resignations, you had Mike Martin from a number of them, Al Bride, and Bill Winch. One of the questions I was asked earlier when people looked at the agenda was, why are Bill Winch and Al Bride resigning from the county board? I want to make it very clear, they're not resigning from the county board. All right, who was applauding back there? So, no, I really want to make that clear, though, because for some people, that's what that looked like. You know, county representative for instance, Vesper. So these are strictly from those districts. So I would entertain a motion to that effect, to accept those resignations by Zerflu, second by Leitnam. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. Opposed? And that motion carries. To clean this appointment process up, and instead of naming a person individually, we decided that the best thing to do there was appoint the Wood County Finance Director, whomever that may be at the time. So at this point, we'd like to appoint the Wood County Finance Director to all of the following TIDs. I have a motion by Supervisor Rosa, a second by Supervisor Clendenning. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. And opposed, and that motion carries. Public comment. Do I have any public comment today? Anybody from the public? No public comment. Acknowledgements and recognitions. I have none of those today. And this is where we have a couple special orders of business. One is with Farm Technology Days, and I have Scott Larson, Dennis Banger, I think Matt Lippert's going to help out with that. This will be one of the biggest events that has come to Wood County. Some of you have experienced the crowds when it was held just outside of Wood County, in Marathon County, or in Portage County a few years ago, but we were lucky enough to get that bid. We're going to have a special order of business there. Right after they're done, I will call on Dean Keith Montgomery to come forward and give us a quick update on the university up at Marshfield, the system, and what's happening there. I did want to remind everybody, I'll do it several times, that we have business after hours tomorrow. The courthouse, we were told that we didn't have that out, so we made sure we got that announcement out to everybody 5 or 6 times. So that's out there. After the meeting today, we will have a tour of the new dispatch center for those of you who are interested. So with all that being said, at this point in time, I would call on our representatives for Farm Technology Days. I don't know who's taking the lead on that. Scott, Dennis, Matt, somebody. Or all three of you. Welcome, gentlemen.
Well, thank you. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Is this on?
Yes, you can do that also, so
There we go.
there you go.
I like talking with it in hand anyway. So again, thank you everybody for your attention and audience this morning. Scott and I are here to talk a little bit about this massive event that's coming to Wood County next July 10th through the 12th. In 2018. Scott is the Executive Director of the Marshfield Area Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I'm a loan officer with the Farm Credit System out of Marshfield. Matt Lippert, your county ag agent, could not be here this morning, so we will piece the parts together. When we get to the end of the presentation, if there are questions, we will take time to answer those. But today's big point is for awareness of the event, to get your questions answered, and then also two other things, talk about the economic impact that the visitors will bring to the show, and then the last part is to basically ask for a formal ask of in-kind services that we will be using from the county as far as resources. So with that, Scott and I will take our turns each as far as the presentation, and I guess a couple items of housekeeping. We did put a blue brochure by all of your spots. And one of our hosts, Ken Hyman from Nasonville Dairy, did send cheese curds with this morning. So if you found them over by the coffee pot, those are fresh from today. So with that, Scott?
Sure. Thank you, Dennis. Again, as he mentioned, we've got a little thing coming on this coming July called Farm Technology Days. And so what I wanted to do is give you a little background on what exactly is this event. And it is Wisconsin's largest outdoor agricultural show. It's 3 days. It'll be this coming July 10th through the 12th. We're expected to have attendance of about 40,000, hopefully more than that if we have good weather as well. And our central location, we're hoping that we'll be able to exceed those show numbers. And the other aspect is that 70% of the show attendees originate from about a 100-mile radius from the show location. So again, that makes our location very prime because we're right here in the middle of the state. So we've got a full radius that we can draw from. The last couple of years, the show has been on the east coast of Wisconsin, and you don't draw too many people from Lake Michigan. So we're hoping we'll be able to pull more people to the show. This is an aerial view of what a typical Farm Technology Days looks like. For those of you that might not recognize this is back in 2011 when the Seehafer Farm was the host in Marathon County. And so you can see you're literally creating a small community on a field site, on a farm site. This is the preliminary site map for Wood County. And we'll just take a little time to go through some of this. The checkered areas, the black and yellow checkered areas, those are parking. Little background on a farm site. When you're selecting this, it needs to be about 600 acres of contiguous land. Of that site, then, you need at least, anywhere from 50 50 plus to 60 acres just for the tent city site, which is the centerpiece there with the kind of gray, white, checkered areas. So that's just shy of 60 acres alone. And then you need at least 100 acres just for all the parking, and that is the black and yellow areas that you see around the map. And so we've tried to put parking around as much of the site as we can. The darker green sites, those are the farm demonstration areas or the field demonstration areas. And so that's where there'll be actual harvesting going on, showcasing of equipment and processes that are key to the show. Another key aspect is that in that tent city, there will be just over 600 vendors that will be part of that tent city. And this we're expecting is, like I said, a preliminary map site. It'll probably change slightly up until construction on the site starts, which is usually 4 weeks out of the show start date. And then once the show is done, after that third day, there's usually about 2 weeks of teardown that takes place as well. The awareness. We have 2 host families that are part of the show, the Sternweiss family and the Hyman families that are part of our farm technology site. And they're very involved in the processes that have gone on now, and they're also our ambassadors showcasing the event from around the state. Community engagement. That's another key component to this event. Not only is it a farm show, but it's also a leadership development and a community engagement process that takes place. And so as you can see, there will be local volunteers involved in this, and these will be and literally are throughout the entire county. So because the site is up towards the Marshfield area, please do not think that the rest of the county is not taking a very involved part in this process, because they are. So we have a lot of involvement here from the Southwood County area in this process as well. And we want to have it that way. And so we have administered by all the exec committee is throughout the county. There are 18 subcommittees of this event. It's a 3-year planning process. So the moment that Wood County was designated as the host site for 2018, you have 3 years to start that planning process. And there's about 300 volunteers that are involved in just that planning process alone. As we continue with the community engagement, once the show is ready to take place, that community involvement, volunteer involvement will ramp up to about 3,000 people. So we've got 300 people right now that are working to plan this event. To carry out the event, we're going to need to have several more thousand people volunteer to help take part in the event. And again, that covers all different parts of the community and the county, all different backgrounds, farm, non-farm, and such to build and be part of those committees. Again, this show is, those 3 days are the climax of 3 years worth of planning and the ability to capture and involve all the community, all the county in that process, and from all parts of the county. What's the impact going to be to Wood County? The very conservative economic impact is $2.5 million for those 3 days. And that does not even include the dollar sales, which is the 600 plus vendors. But there's a total budget of about $2 million to put on one of these events. Based on the Department of Tourism numbers, the average daily expenditure of a day tripper is $58 a day. An overnight traveler or an overnight stayer is about $180 a day. We have roughly 1,000 to 1,500 overnight rooms in Wood County and the surrounding area that will be booked because of the show, which means all of Wisconsin Rapids, all of Marshfield hotel rooms, probably all of Stevens Point's, some of Wausau's, Abbotsford's, are all going to see stays related to this event coming up. And again, show operations, I'm going to turn that over to our chair, Dennis.
Good morning again, thank you. Just to highlight a couple of the things in addition that, as Scott was talking through, and just to put a very real perspective on this and maybe some personal tidbits. So I recently got married, we honeymooned up north. the day tripper spends more than $58.
Always have one.
Yeah.
She hit the nail on the head. But we did go to the Bayfield Apple Festival while we were on our honeymoon, and trust me, that was more than $50 or $180. So, as a lighthearted thing. And then to hit the part that we're not accounting for, the trade show does bring in over 600 commercial vendors. If you take, for example, a company like Kuhn Knight, which manufactures egg harvesting equipment, maybe the average piece of equipment of their value is probably $45,000 to $50,000 for a brand new piece of equipment. They walk away from the show with 30 to 40 leads, and they expect to close 10 to 12 of them. So you take just one business is banking on $300,000 to $400,000 of sales from that show, and you have 600 vendors. So that's not a number because we're not in their personal books as far as their companies that we can ever capture. But when Scott put up the numbers of the economic impact and then the budget, again, we're not even publicizing the sales that are taking place that are going through with the exhibitors and the vendors that are coming to the show. So my part as chairman of the event, we're going to talk a little bit about why we are here today as well, is that the show is managed by our county volunteers. It's managed through a budget. But the big thing is that the show does have a lot of fixed costs. As you can see from the site visual of the 600-acre map, there's a lot of stuff that costs money. Total expenditures, the tents are about a $250,000 bill. When we talk electricity and powering the show, that can range from $50,000 to $70,000. And then we get into traffic budgets, setting up road signs, state organization costs. So we are structured as a local committee running, operating, managing the show. The state has a board that's above it and a general manager that keeps it consistent from year to year. As the show changes, for example, the last 3 years from Dane County to Walworth to Kewaunee, we're having it here in Wood County. There's 3 consistent people every year to make sure that the exhibitors are taken care of the same every year, and that county to county, as the committees and the volunteers change over, that the right pieces are covered. So even beyond Wood County, there's a lot of organization to this. Next slide. So variable costs, the show does, because you're outdoors and rain does happen here in Wisconsin, there's variable costs that we cannot control. We budget for them, we hope for them, but when we talk about, for example, like the food area, and we'll talk a little bit about the volunteer part of this, because for those of you going back to your home districts, this is a great area for volunteers and community involvement. There's a need for about 1,200 people working just to sell, package, do the food stamp thing, kind of like you do at the Village Park or the county fair, all right? It takes about 1,200 people over 3 days just to serve the food. How we have that structured is it's a complete give back to the community. So if you have your church organization, your 4-H club, your nonprofit group, and they can bring anywhere between 15 and 35 or 40 people, all right? There's a per dollar per hour payment back to the volunteers. So if a group brings 15 people, if a group brings 50 people, the profits from the food area are then paid back to that nonprofit organization. So at the end of the show, you take almost $300,000 of food sales, hopefully $100,000 of profit, you divide it back by the volunteers, and that goes and funds several nonprofits throughout the county. It's a great way of giving back to the community and involving the people. Take that back to your home districts. If you have a group that's interested, there's a place out on the website. Now we talk about how weather affects that. If we don't have $100,000 of food sales in one day, we've paid for it or we've got it donated and we're sitting on it, all right? So that's a huge expenditure that weather controls. When you talk about admissions, you may have $60,000 of ticket sales every day. If you don't have that one day, you've just changed your budget by $160,000 just by one rain day. So that goes back to why are there 18 subcommittees? Grounds committee, for example, uses semi-loads and semi-loads and semi-loads of wood chips in those moisture events, gets them down, so every effort is made to keep the show going. So for those of you who can put dollar signs on paper, the numbers add up really quickly as far as the cost of the event. Other places we do use is for county-wide resources. We will use traffic and road control. So Charlie Hugastager is one of your sheriff's deputies here in the county. He's doing a phenomenal job. He puts together his budget as far as personnel, as far as road sign, putting them up, as far as other things that are needed. Public safety falls into that category, but you also need your fire, your EMS, your first aid area on site, and a preparation plan. And then into public works, again, goes back into setting road signs up. Maybe they take bulb and putting the electricity and wiring in the show. And then county staff and volunteers. So I'm a volunteer on a committee. We've utilized several people in, for example, the city of Marshfield. We have some here from Wisconsin Rapids. We have some of the people working here at the county that are already involved in the process. So for example, the map we had above the whole site, that is done by a volunteer within the city of Marshfield, and then within the county resources, there's people working on that. That actually is right off of your Wood County website as far as that map, and then they go right into that, out of your GIS. So the consideration of services is basically to help this event go forward, be put on successfully. At the end of the show, because it is a nonprofit, if, for example, we budgeted enough ahead that we didn't have a shortfall, we didn't have rain events, because it's a nonprofit, all that money goes back to the community in some form or fashion. Everybody takes their part. So from Wood County, we're basically asking for in-kind services, the county help, whether it is in roads and safety, staff, public works, county volunteers. The county, the communities, the cities in exchange get the economic benefit as we relate early on of what's the day tripper spend, what's the overnight traveler spend, and the businesses, the exhibitors that are local here to the county, our own farm and equipment manufacturers, our nonprofit food groups, everybody's taking a piece of the puzzle away. And even like that nonprofit food group money, that's not even in that number of the $2.5 million that we put out as a conservative estimate. So these are our contact information of some of our main people on the committee. Scott and I are here with you today. Matt, your county ag agent, was one of the people who got us all into this. He loves it when I say that. I happen to be in the right room at the wrong time to be where I'm at. But do go and check out the website as well as our Facebook page. And I guess with that, we will entertain any questions that anybody has.
Anybody out there, any questions? About 2.5 years ago, when we had the opportunity to jump on this, we thought this would be a great chance for exposure for the county and what we do here in the county, and then obviously the economic impacts. And having spoken to some of the other communities that have engaged in this process, it was extremely beneficial. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for the work you've done, because it's been extraordinary. We've had several meetings. And anybody out there have any questions? Mr. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for the public, the thing that I found out when we were visiting our seed tour was the farmers that are hosting this do not receive any financial benefit, so they're making a big contribution to this area. You should get a thanks for that.
Thank you, Supervisor Curry. And you did hit a nail on the head. There is a preconceived notion that if you sign up to host a show, that there's a benefit to yourself and your farm, and what you get out of it is a giant headache. Yeah. Same with volunteers. But correct. Things that go into the show, there is a reimbursement for. For example, do we make sure they have the right stands of the crops for the harvesting demonstrations and all that? But it's because by the end of 3 days, it's all run over and destroyed. So things like that are compensated, but you're correct, there's no benefit to the host family out of it. So,
Question from the back here.
The model that you brought with, you didn't touch on that.
yes, thank you. I guess I did forget about that. This is a prototype. Again, we like to think we're innovative in Wood County, and if you want to pass that around, Scott. We like to think we're a little innovative. So the show has about a 25-year history of putting together, manufacturing, and developing a collector item toy, farm toy. Newsflash, when you work with Ertl, if anybody played with farm toys or gave them to their kids or grandkids, setting up a model toy of a 1/16 size can run you about $80,000 to $100,000, and then you have to sell them all. So we took a little bit different approach on this of how do we still fundraise, make money for the event to take place, but how do we do something that anybody can take a part and be involved in but doesn't have a huge cost to it. So we took a standard manufactured toy that Ertl already makes, and we're offering customization of it. So if you'd like it to say Plymouth Farms or Cypress Farms, we will put that right on it for you. You can leave it in your packaging and set it on your bookshelf. We did want to take actually a little bit of background, a couple of initiatives for a change in the toy we looked at. One of the more modern pieces of equipment are silage trucks and grain trucks. H&S Meyer Manufacturing manufacture these boxes that they put on used truck frames, Mid-State, B&H, Some of your local manufacturers right here in the community assemble those, put the real equipment together. So we thought of ourselves, maybe we do a miniature silage truck. Well, that came back with about $120,000 cost to do a toy that size. So we said, well, hold on, we'll let Ertl do that. We'll think of something a little bit different because we want the benefit back to the community. And this is something that anybody can order, they can buy. That has a cost of $20, not $150. So again, it's something that whether you make it a kid's toy, one leave it sit on your bookshelf, you can do that. Or if Junior rips it out of the packaging, takes it to the sandbox, it was $20. So that's a little bit of the background on the toy. I forgot it was sitting over there, so thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I want to thank you gentlemen for coming in.
We'll expect to see all of you July 10th through the 12th. Volunteering, yes.
Okay, we've had a monumental shakeup. Well, first of all, for those of you who have not been up and toured our new STEM facility up at UW-Marshfield, you should get up there and do that. Incredible building. Did some creative things in that process, including the very end of the day when we wrapped up the, I don't want to say the financing, but the payments of that, but came in on time, on budget. It's a beautiful facility. While all this is happening, there's been a major shakeup in the university system. And a lot of what you heard out there is nothing but rumor and speculation. So had a conversation the other day, several conversations. I'll get the title probably wrong. It's Regional Dean, now is that correct? Close enough. The Regional Dean of 3 of the campuses, Keith Montgomery, and Keith, if you'd come forward. When I'm on the phone, I was going, yes, Dean, or hi, Keith, and my wife leaned down at me one day, she goes, are you talking to Keith or Dean or both of them? I said, same person, couple titles. So floor is yours, Dean.
Well, you know, in Rice Lake, the dean's first name was Dean.
That may be off, Keith.
Turn the microphone off.
Yeah, you turn the mic off, so you need to turn it back on. Well, push the little button until it comes on green. See the little button?
On the side.
On the side. No.
I did. I think we're good.
Are we good?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for inviting me to say a few words here this morning about this UW system reorganization. But first of all, let me thank the County Board again for its funding of the Everett Rail STEM Centre at UW-Marshfield, Wood County. It is a fabulous facility, a terrific addition to educational opportunity in Marshfield, Wood County. And if you haven't had a chance to visit that facility, please do give me a call. I'll be happy to give you a tour. Very proud to give you a tour, and I'll be very proud of the building that we have there now. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to say a few words about the realignment of the UW system that's been proposed by the system leadership, which I'd have to say was released last week without notice. So it wasn't something that I participated in. It wasn't something I was aware of as we were going through our plans for the future at UW-Marshfield, Wood County. It is a proposal. It won't become actual practice until November the 9th when the Board of Regents meet. But I expect they'll approve the proposal. I expect they'll fire the starting pistol and everybody will be off to the races. It's a realignment, so the system is proposing to partner 2-year campuses with select baccalaureate campuses, and in this case UW-Marshfield Wood County would be partnered with UW-Stevens Point, as would UW-Marathon in Wausau. So this is the first reorganization of the UW system since 1970, when the extension campuses were all drawn together along with Madison and Milwaukee and the UW state institutions to form the UW system. And the UW system since 1970 has been a very robust system that served the state well. However, there's been some great pressure on the system in terms of population change, particularly in the north. I think I pointed out before that across the north, high school graduating classes are down 20%. They've been declining since 2005, 2008, depending on the school district. Tuition has been frozen, and with a decline in state support for the UW system, the budget has become very difficult to sustain, not just in the UW colleges such as UW-Marshfield, Wood County, but several institutions across the UW system. So this realignment is really a response partly to that. It's also partly a response to economic change in the state. And so the idea here is to bring the benefits of comprehensive institutions to communities that have UW colleges, campuses in them. So bringing some of the benefits of UW-Stevens Point to UW-Marshfield, Wood County, and the programs that UW-Stevens Point has. So I really believe very strongly in this proposal. I think that if it's managed correctly, I think it can bring some real benefits to Marshfield and to Wood County. I think UW-Stevens Point can bring some programs that can help support economic growth. And I just had a conversation with Scott Larson just before the meeting here, and I know that UW-Stevens Point has already reached out to the Chamber of Commerce, in Marshfield at least, to talk about collaborations there that might exist, some synergies that might exist between the university and the local economy. So I think this is a change that will improve the viability of the Marshfield Wood County campus, and I think it's also a change that will impact its influence in Wood County and in Marshfield. I will say that its tuition will stay the same though. So a student that attends Marshfield Wood County for the first 2 years will pay UW-Marshfield Wood County tuition, not Stevens Point tuition. It's pretty clear across the system that the mission of UW-Marshfield Wood County as a transfer institution will be honored. And that's important because students from Marshfield Wood County don't just transfer to UW-Stevens Point, they also transfer to UW-Eau Claire and to UW-Madison and other institutions. There's a very close collaboration between Marshfield Clinic, Marshfield Community, and UW-Eau Claire, and the UW-Eau Claire nursing program that's in Marshfield, as many students go through Wood County campus to get into that program. So that transfer mission will continue to be honored. The name, there's no formula that's been decided for the name yet, but I know that this county has made a considerable investment in that campus. I know it's going to continue to get a return from that campus, but I think also, in my opinion, I think the name should be preserved in some type of a formula because of the investment the county and the city have made and the ongoing investment that they're making in that campus. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I know you didn't want me to take too much time, Lance, so...
Does anybody have any questions? Dean? The other part of this puzzle is the extension piece, which is not, I don't think, been clearly defined yet. We're working on that. We've got several conversations in Madison. That will continue to evolve.
The extension, UW extension is being... Co-op extension is going in with UW-Madison, which is where it kind of began, I guess.
Information to follow eventually. Anyway, thank you very much, Dean. Appreciate you coming up today and giving us a quick brief on that, because I've had people ask, are they closing campuses? What's the process? And the answer is no. There's just an affiliation with those four-year universities.
Yeah, this is being done in order to ensure the sustainability of campuses and to avoid the closure of any campuses within the system.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Dean. Should we get into the packet here then? Referrals for October. There was one that went out to Supervisors Fire, Clendenning, and Reichert. And then as we get into the minutes, the page 9 of your packet, the Executive Committee meeting minutes of Tuesday, October 3rd, pages 9, 10, and 11. Comments from the County Clerk on 12. Your first notice of business after hours in the packet, page 13, Supervisor Clendenning.
You have to say the date.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's also on page 81, that's day 1.
And on your desk.
I, along with a lot of other people, are working very hard for this event to come because it's a result of the ad hoc committee spending $5,000 and being where we are now. Well, one thing I'm really disappointed is the fact that the county has put no money into this affair. And I think they should. Some county board supervisors have donated money. I myself and some other things went around the community. And I think it's very disappointing. The county board is saying to the committee, yeah, you did a good job, on time and budget-wise, but I would like to make a motion that the county and to get the money out of the executive committee, because this was a subcommittee of those, not to exceed $300 and help pay for some of this food. I'd like to make that motion.
Let me first ask this. Peter, is that an appropriate motion? If it is, and then secondly, is it a motion that requires a 3/4 vote because that money's not budgeted to be coming out of contingency? I just want to make sure I'm doing the right thing here. I don't have a problem with it. And to clarify, Mr. Clendennis, we didn't spend $5,000, we spent $5 million.
I meant $5,000.
For anybody's out there.
I meant $3,000 for the food.
And, yeah. And what he's talking about is, to clarify, we're hosting this event over there. Typically, hors d'oeuvres or non-alcoholic beverages might be served at that event. We've had several supervisors step up and say, I will offset the cost. And what Mr. Clendenning is asking, that the money be, in effect, spent by the county to offset the cost of hosting that event. So I hope that clarifies it. Mr. Gaston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the topic is appropriate, and so the motion is appropriate because there's information in the packet that went to the supervisors. As far as the request to transfer funds, or rather to utilize funds, it's not a request to transfer them, it's to utilize them. So if you're not transferring them, then we don't need any extraordinary vote. As far as utilization, that's appropriate if in fact those funds are in a budget for which they're can be used for this type of thing for. So I assume that
The executive committee doesn't have a budget per se.
no, that this is actually coming from the county clerk's office and a budget that they maintain for committees and so on. So I assume also that those costs include more than just paying per diems, but if they don't, then we're talking about going to contingency. But if they do cover this type of thing for a committee meeting, then you can use it for this type of meeting as well. If they don't, then you can't.
I understand exactly what Supervisor Clinton is attempting to do. I just want to make sure we got the I's and cross the T's and we'll get in trouble later. County Clerk?
Yes, I can't tell you at this moment, is there $300 available? But I will be going over in my committees and commission budget due to excessive isn't the right word, per diem. So if it is the wish, and this $300 isn't available currently, that $300 in my resolution that would be coming at the end of the year to transfer funds from contingency, this could certainly be rolled into that.
Okay, there's kind of an explanation of where you are. We had a motion by Supervisor Clendenning to fund this through county coffers, I guess would be the easiest way to put that. I have a second by Supervisor Weiland. Discussion. Any discussion on the issue? Discussion. I think I can probably do this by a voice vote. Can we try that? All right, all in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, that motion did carry. I know that several supervisors have stepped up and made contributions, and maybe what we'll do is use those first, and if there's any additional dollars that need to be expended to meet the cost, that we do that.
Certainly, Jason and I have really kind of taken, control of it, I guess, and, are keeping track of our expenses, what we're donating, what other people have donated, and we have a spreadsheet. We'll present that in our packet.
Yeah, I think we have most of the cost of this covered, but in the event we don't. Thank you, Supervisor Clendenning. All right, where am I? Maintenance, monthly comments, page 14. Any questions there? Safety and risk management, page 15. Information technology, and I assume many of you received the email yesterday that the data center has now been moved, relocated, everything is up and running. My first email was success removed. Oh, by the way, nothing's working. The next one that followed shortly was removed and everything's working, which made me feel a lot better than the first email we got. But everything's up there. You ought to take a look at that, make an appointment to stop in. It's a pretty impressive facility there, and I think moves us at least into this century. So information technology, pages 16, 17, and 18. The treasurer's report on page 19. Monthly letter of comments from human resources on 20 through 24. 20 through 24. Let's get to that for a second. And then that brings us to the first item in our packet, and this is a resolution that deals with the awarding of the sale of bond. The numbers have changed. The new numbers are on your desk. The original resolution that we had in the packet was at 5.44. The revised one's about 5.416. It's down from what was in your packet. I'm going to ask the clerk to read that resolution. This runs on page 25, 26, and all of the background information all the way through page 41, basically. So I'll ask the clerk to read that. We'll put this on the floor. I will then call up Mike Martin, our finance director, for an explanation and to answer any questions that you might have.
This will be Resolution 17-10-1, resolution awarding the sale of 5,440,000 general obligation promissory notes, Series 2017A.
Okay, you've heard the reading of the resolution. We have a motion by Supervisor Fire, a second by Supervisor Hinkle. All right, when I get to discussion here, so Mike can explain this in the change. Mike, why don't you go to the microphone and explain where we are and why we're there today.
Okay. The bids on this were opened yesterday afternoon. The reason that it's so close to this acceptance of the low bid is because all the bidders want to be sure that nothing can materially happen between the time that they put their bids in and when the county accepts it, as far as anything in the market itself or anything with the borrower of the funds. So Springstead handled the bidding process. Joe Murray's here in case there's a highly technical question that I can't address. But they received 7 bids. The bond was structured down just slightly by $25,000 from 5.44 to 5.415. That had to do with the refunding portion of the borrowing, I'm pretty sure. That was kind of a late change. But the winning, or the low bid that is being recommended is from the Bank of Oklahoma. The true interest cost, the coupons come in at between 2 and 3%, but there's a premium that they offer on this, which brings the true interest cost to the county down to just a little bit over 1.8%. So we're quite happy with the results. Previous to the bid, we had a conference call with Moody's that sets the rating on this borrowing. We were able to maintain our AA1 rating, which is the second highest rating you can get, and it's especially good news from a community and entities the size of Wood County. So we're pretty happy with both the rating and the results of the bid.
Yeah, the rating is incredible for a county or organization of our size. They don't get any better than that. And what this is, again, is the sale of the bond at that 1.8154 rate. The dollars expended within this have been bandied about at several county board meetings, and that's what required the 3/4 vote previously. So we have a motion, we have a second. Under discussion, I'll allow any questions of Mr. Martin if you have those also, but is there any discussion? Any discussion? Supervisor Weiland.
Yeah, Mike, can we ask Joe to explain that? I think I understand. In this sheet that was handed out on the sale and stuff, there's a schedule here called the reoffering schedule of the purchaser. Can you explain what the reoffering schedule is? I think I've got it, but I want to make sure.
Good morning, I'm Joe Murray from Springstead, one of the county's financial advisor. At your places are, what we're speaking from is the yellow piece of paper. I'm not sure exactly which page, Greg, you're...
Page 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, page 3 on the yellow page?
Yeah, right there.
Okay. If you go to the third page, the yellow handout, the reoffering schedule, you see the rate, that's the coupon that the county is paying the investors at the 3% in 2018, all the way to 2024, then 2025 it drops to 2%, in 25 and 26, and then in 2010, or in 2027 it goes up to 2.1%. That's the interest rate that you're going to be paying in those years. The yield is what the return is to the investor. So to receive a 3% coupon, they are getting a return of 0.95%. That means they're paying more than $1 for receiving that coupon. Basically, a 3% coupon in the first year is a greater return than what the market says it should earn. It should earn basically the yield, the 0.95%. So if it was a perfect match of coupon and yield, the price would be $1.
So this is where the premium comes in?
Correct. Basically, in the market, as you would expect, to receive a 3% interest payment in 18 for 1 year is more than you would expect in your own personal income or in investments. So what the underwriter is doing is they provide a premium, which is a cash payment up front to the county to reduce your net interest cost for paying that money out. So that your net interest cost comes in at the true interest cost of the 1.81% that Mike mentioned earlier. That is reflective of getting that cash payment from the underwriter at the time of purchase. I don't want to get too deep in the weeds and glaze people's eyes over, but I'd be happy to try to explain that further if you'd like.
All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, I'd ask you to please go to the board and vote.
Who benefits the most?
That resolution passed 16-1. Thank you very much. We will proceed with getting all the paperwork signed and moving forward with funding those projects and getting that work done. That takes us to page 42 in the packet. All the rest of that information between those two was background information on the bond. And this is a resolution to amend the 2017 budget for Human Services Administration. And I'll let Cindy catch up here for a second.
Okay, this will be Resolution 17-10-2 to amend the 2017 budget for Human Services Administration for the purposes of funding the cost of architectural services. Fiscal note to transfer $8,665 from available balance and contingency to Human Services Community Administration. At the time of this request, the funds available in contingency are $419,870. The adjustment to the budget totals $8,665.
Again, you've heard the reading of the resolution. Do I have a motion on the resolution? By Wagner, second by Bry. Discussion on the resolution? Any discussion? Supervisor Clendenin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be voting against this resolution because I thought this should have been straightened out before we even had an architect in there. I was on the committee at that time. I asked about that. We never said we'd have to take it out of contingency. We've been thinking about another building up there, and all of a sudden we have an architect coming in. So I will be voting no, and I'm taking it out of contingency. Thank you.
Any other discussion, Supervisor Zerflu?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The fourth, whereas the funding for the additional architectural services was not included in the 2017 budget. I'm just wondering why it wasn't. Was this just forgotten to be in there, or did we have an overrun in the budget, or just looking for a little more info?
Supervisor Roser?
Answer that. These were unintended, this was an unintended expenditure. We had already paid a bill from Design Unlimited that was for some design work because we thought we were going to have to vacate the City Hall building by September of 2018, and we were a little bit under the gun, and so we were exploring all of our options as to what to do about the offices that are currently being housed in City Hall. Now that whole scenario has changed, and we're dealing with a whole different set of circumstances. But at the time that the architect presented the original design work to the Health and Human Services Committee, there were some questions with members of that committee at the time as to whether we could realize some increased return on investment if we spent more money than was originally proposed by the architect. And so the architects were asked to go back to the drawing board and bring back some additional options to the committee for consideration. And that's where this bill came from, was because some of the committee members requested some additional information from the drawings. And this is actually an expense that was incurred at the end of last year, and we're just getting around now to making sure that we bring that architectural firm whole, make it whole.
Thank you. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Supervisor Lightman.
Okay, so I'm fuzzy on this. Is the $8,600 for a remodel or for a new building or for a combination of both?
Supervisor Roder.
It was for a new building, Supervisor Lightnum. Because of the time pressure that the Health and Human Services Committee believed that they were under at the time with having to vacate City Hall and having found no acceptable rental property in Marshfield to house the human services offices that are currently in City Hall, the possibility of having to build a new building was pretty high on the option list, and so that's what these architectural drawings were from, was to build a new human services building on existing property that Wood County owns in Marshfield.
Any further discussion? Supervisor Clendine.
Yes, we originally spent $10,800 on the first one. And it came back to here at the county board for some reason. And this is, in my opinion, what happened in sidebar and people talking, is the fact that, well, maybe the county will vote for this building, maybe the county board will vote for this if we can get the price down to $2 million or $3 million instead of the $5 million. So in my opinion, this is what went on. So we called the architect back in, and here's our bill for doing it, and we're not building a building. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion? All right, please vote. That resolution passed 14-3. I didn't want to comment while this was on the floor, but until you have plans, you never know what the cost is going to be of any building, so you don't know how to weigh that against what the rental cost will be. The plans are there should we need it, and at some point we probably are going to have to do something. You're going to see a resolution not too far in the future here in your packet that's going to at least solve this problem for a few years, but it may not be a permanent fix. So I don't want the public to think that there's plans that may never be used. They are out there, and how we expend money to do that can be debated all day and is reasonable, but there are plans out there should we need to do that. Next item in your packet, page 43, deals with an easement up at that Norwood facility, or that annex facility.
This will be Resolution 17-10-3 to authorize the grant of an easement to the Marshfield YMCA to build and maintain a driveway on county land adjacent to the Wood County Annex and Health Center, also known as Norwood. Fiscal note, no county costs.
Wow, I have a motion by Clendine, second by Fisher. Discussion? Any discussion, Supervisor Lynch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This appears to be a 20-year lease. I'm a little concerned about our item 7 on 45. It's an amendment to for our exit policy. It basically says here that we
want to just address it in general? This easement was put together by Tier, I believe.
That's true.
Oh, sure, pass the buck. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. So, this easement is actually different than most in the opposite direction of what you're suggesting. Hopefully I've confused you already. Normally an easement, we all have easements on our property, our home property or business properties. Usually they're utility easements, things of that nature. And so they're permanent. They run with the land. You don't change an easement unless both parties agree to it. So for instance, if the utility that has power lines wants to move those power lines, they can't just move them anywhere they want on your property. You have to agree. You also can't stop and say, well, I don't want those utility lines there anymore. I'm going to plant a tree over there. It's the utility, get them out of there. They don't have to do that. They're permanent. You negotiate them up front. Sometimes there's compensation for those types of things, sometimes not. So here we're dealing with something a little different because we're not looking at a utility going on the county's property that's going to improve our property. Instead, we're providing assistance to another entity. And as a county, we're different than a private party would be insofar as we want the YMCA and other businesses in the area to be successful. So we're authorizing them to put a driveway in. And so what makes this easement very different is that initially the county's not anticipating any benefit from that. Maybe we'll construct a building up there. We were just talking about plans for doing such that an architect has done some preliminary work on. So we may have use for this driveway in the future, we may not. But at this point in time, the decision, the tentative decision, the directions I received, were to cap this at 20 years. So again, that's very unusual as opposed to either permanent or the life of a road or something more long-term, because a driveway usually has an existence that's going to be longer than 20 years. So this one's actually tighter than one would anticipate for an easement of this nature. So I don't know that I've answered your question. I've, I think, explained why things are the way they are. And it's the 20 years, again, is a rather short time frame, but there may be development that the county wants to make of that property. We may want to sell the property that's adjacent to Norwood there. And so having the 20-year time period makes it short and then makes that property more attractive. But more likely anybody who's going to use the property, whether it's the county or some third party we might sell it to, would like to have that improvement, that road, driveway that's being for the YMCA to be there and then to be able to access it. So I hope I've fleshed things out or given a fuller picture of things as far as what's going on and why it's there.
Did you have a follow-up, Supervisor Winch, or another question?
Thank you. Well, I better understand it, or I hope everybody does, but the only concern here is just like we just talked about the architect bill. I mean, there could be a change somewhere that could be cause us to want to do something different was my only point. That was the current concern I had. But
20 years.
I guess it is what it is, unless we want to change it. Thank you.
Supervisor Rosa?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to say that the YMCA has not looked at our easement agreement yet, and they certainly understand some of the risk of doing a 20-year lease, and they have to decide whether that is worth their risk. And so we have not presented this to the YMCA because it needed to pass this body first, and so they may have issues and not say that this is a good thing for them, so that's still to be decided.
Supervisor Bernice?
I was not at the last meeting, but what did the committee itself see this?
Yes.
We're shaking your head, yes, they did. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion?
I'm sorry. Supervisor Clendenning raises a good point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Y actually presented the Health and Human Services Committee with 3 options. They wanted us to provide them an easement for the construction of this driveway. What the second option was is that we carve carve out a piece of that property and sell it to them in order to construct a driveway. The third option is to carve out a larger piece of property on what we own and allow them perhaps a future development of an athletic field. The decision from the Health and Human Services Committee was that we were not interested in selling any of our property, and so the Health and Human Services Committee decided to recommend to the Executive Committee to move toward granting them an easement for this second access onto their property. So that was the discussion, Supervisor Bernice.
All right, I guess Supervisor Ashcraft.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I kind of looked over the situation yesterday. Was this YMCA part of our land? For them two buildings that Norwood built about the same time, just for history. And actually the YMCA is part of the county as far as the health department, because the people, they condition in there, they swim in there to help themselves. And so really it's part of our health department for Wood County to keep this YMCA working. So thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, please vote. Resolution passed 16-1. Supervisor Bernice.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a point of order. In the resolution that was 3 voting here and 2 absent, how many for a 3/4 vote? Did that resolution pass with 5 voting no's?
The previous.
It was a 2/3 vote.
That was part of 2/3. It was a 2/3 majority.
Three up there.
That only required 2/3 no vote, not 3/4. So as many as 6 could have voted no.
Thank you.
Yeah, good, sharp.
All right, that takes us to page 47 in your packet. Sometimes we do these resolutions in an order that would have made more sense had we done the other direction. We don't think about that when we put them together, but this one deals with negotiations in the lease at Marshfield City Hall.
That's true. That's true. That could have been organized a little better on my part. This will be Resolution 17-10-4 to authorize the negotiations for and entry into a lease extension with the City of Marshfield for Human Services office space in the Marshfield City Hall. Fiscal note, use of budgeted funds only.
Motion by Glendenning, second by Fider. Any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? All right, seeing none, please vote. Supervisor Ashbeck, your vote is not in yet. Thank you. Resolution passed 17-0. Health and Human Services minutes, page 48 and 49. The meeting of North Central Community Action on page 50 and 51. Health Department's monthly report beginning on page 52 and running through page 56. The Human Services Department report, beginning with Director Ruins on 57 and running through page 62. Minutes of the Wood County Public Safety Committee, September 19th on 63 and 4. Minutes of the Seed Committee, Tuesday, September 19th on 65. Minutes from their regular meeting of Wednesday, October 4th on 66 through 69. Minutes of the Seed Committee from Friday, October 6th on page 70 and 71. North Central ITBEC board meeting beginning on 72, running through 75. Monthly report from our planning and zoning department, beginning with Jason Bloomberg on page 76 and running through page 80, 76 through 80. For those of you who didn't get it the first 3 times, page 81, we'd like to invite everybody to Business After Hours at the Riverback Building. I want to make sure we got that out there. All right. The staff report for land and water conservation beginning on 82 and running through page 86. UW Extensions monthly update, page 87 and running through page 90. Minutes of the Judicial and Legislative Committee, September 19th on page 91. Their regular monthly meeting of October 2nd on 92 and 93. We have several sets of minutes from the Wood County Criminal Justice Task Force. There are 3 meetings worth of minutes in there. They begin on page 94 and run through page 101, page 94 through 101. We have the Child Support Director, Brent Bruing's report, beginning on 102 and ending on 102. We have Corp Counsel's monthly letter, beginning on 103, also ending on 103, and then 104 through 106, monthly notice of injury and claims. It's 104 through 106. Beginning on 107 through 109, again, Corp Counsel, Casson Holtz. I don't know what I'd call this. His explanation of what he saw when he was looking through some stuff in his office one day that thought it might be of interest to the county, and it is. It's something that I think that we should certainly take a look at as we move forward in that memorandum on 107 through 109. And then that brings us to page 110, and it actually goes to 111, and that's a resolution from the Judicial and Legislative Committee.
This will be Resolution 17-10-5 to request the state legislature to modify the public records law such that performance evaluations of department heads are not open to the public. No fiscal note.
Okay. I have a motion by Bryce, second by Clendenny. Any discussion on this resolution? Any discussion? Please vote. That resolution passed 14-3. The minutes of the Highway Infrastructure Recreation Committee of Thursday, October 5th, beginning on 112, 13, and 14. The Parks Construction Supervisor's report starts all the parks reports on 115 and runs through page 119. And then that brings us to the resolution on page 120.
This will be Resolution 17-10-6 to allow the Parks and Forestry Department to retain excess revenue in years where the actual revenue exceeds the budgeted revenue. Fiscal note, the amount retained shall be limited to revenues that exceed the 5-year average of the total sum of the park user fee revenue account and the forestry timber sales revenue account.
You heard the reading of the resolution. I have a motion by Zerflu, a second by Fire. Discussion on the resolution. Any discussion on the resolution? Supervisor Roser?
I just have a question about how this 5-year average. So every year will be another average as you pick up the current year, and so it's it's not going to be based on 5 years in the past. It'll always be a running 5-year average. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Any further? Supervisor Lynch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to vote against this. I have all along. I think there's several things in it that aren't right. For example, the excess revenue would come from county pride. In other words, the county forest should go into the general fund. That's one issue. And my thought is that the general fund is controlled by the entire county board. So if the Parks Department needs the money, it comes back to the entire county board rather than a 5-member committee. No, those are my thoughts. That's one of the reasons I'm voting no. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the resolution? Any further discussion? All right, I ask you to please vote. That resolution passed 11-6. 11-6. All right, page 121 in your packet. This is one I talked about earlier where I asked for a little latitude to ask the board how they want me to handle this. As this resolution is brought forth to the board again, it really requires a 2/3 majority to even bring it to the floor. To do that, but then we could go back and have a motion to to suspend the rules and go to a majority vote to bring it back to the floor. So I guess in the, I don't know, thought of expediency, because we've dealt with this on a number of issues, that we just let it come to the floor and play out. What are your feelings on that? We can go through the whole process, or we can just bring it to the floor. Anybody can grab a microphone. Is there any objection to doing it that way?
No.
No objection? All right, then we'll allow this to come to the floor without going through that entire process, which can take quite some time. And I would ask the clerk to please read the resolution.
Okay, this will be Resolution 17-10-7, initial resolution authorizing the issuance of general obligation promissory notes. Fiscal note not to exceed $1 million.
I have a motion by LaFontaine. I have a second by Bryan. All right, discussion on the resolution. Discussion on the resolution. Supervisor Clendenick.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'm upset because nobody rose for discussion on this resolution. I just want to say 4 years ago or 3 years ago, we voted, not unanimously, to have 4.6 million, and maybe I'm wrong on that, 4.7, whatever it was, and we voted for it, and we kept it up every year. All of a sudden, I would like people to get up and say why they're going to vote against this when this was for our roads. You know, I voted against this the first time because I said, why tell those people in Madison we don't need any money for our roads? We'll pay for them for ourselves. So we did that. Now all of a sudden people are saying, the heck with the roads, the heck with the money. And I'm not going to say anything on the county board here today because I know this is not going to pass anyways. But I would like to know exactly why you would vote against this when we got 1 more year to do it. Thank you.
Further discussion, Supervisor Wagner.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll tell you why. Because at a certain point in time, the county's borrowing increased. We had to increase just to balance the budget. We had to take non-highway capital improvements out of the operations budget and put it in borrowing. My wish was to, as I'm sure it was with many of the others in the board, to lessen the shock to the taxpayers of the increase in borrowing. And we asked, and by the way, we did not forget the highways. They're getting $2.5 million here. They're also getting a pretty tidy sum from the tribal group too. But they're not being forgotten. But basically, we're asking the whole county to sacrifice to keep the tax rate down. We're asking all the departments to sacrifice. All we're asking is for highway to be a team player and to come along with the rest of us. That's what we're asking for. And that's why I am going to vote against this, because this is the third time we've seen this. And the county board has expressed its wishes 2 times prior to this. And I am not changing my mind on this at all. You wanted an explanation, sir? We've got it. Thank you.
Further discussion? Is there any further discussion?
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Supervisor Curry.
Well, I don't know if I'll accept our challenge that I'm one of the votes. I voted no, I believe, every time on this funding. I'm not going to bring up here why I did. I think I've explained to some supervisors why I voted that way, but the people that have voted for it before are going to have to look at how they make their vote now. Thank you.
Further discussion? Supervisor Rosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be supporting this resolution, and I'd like to tell you why. I've been on the board now for 17 years, and it doesn't seem to matter who's on the board. Budgets keep going up. And I am a huge believer that one of the primary purposes of government is infrastructure, okay? And if I had my druthers, I would have the biggest percentage of our budget be infrastructure and public safety. That's not the case. And I have watched the budget move around, human services large, public safety not as large as I'd like to see it, infrastructure not as large as I'd like to see it. I was going to email our finance director, and I just totally forgot, because I was kind of interested in what the budget was in 2000 when I first got on the board, and I think it was like around 90 million or something like that. And now we're up to 109 million. So it doesn't seem to matter who's in charge. The budgets go up and we spend more money as government gets bigger. So that's primarily why I'm supporting this, because I truly, truly believe that one of our functions in government is infrastructure, which then leads to economic development in our community. And so I will be supporting this resolution. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Makes sense. Any further discussion? I would ask you to please vote. And that resolution failed on a 9-8 vote, and then the 2 absent. Moving on to the packet, page 122, Aging and Disability Resource Center, their minutes from the Finance Committee on July 13th. Their regular board meeting minutes, 123 through 125. Their Finance Committee minutes from August 10th on 126. Board meeting minutes on 127 and 128. And one thing that we probably have mentioned is maybe Hildy or Mike, when you want on it, I guess I can do it too, in regards to our executive director. Yes. Supervisor Weiland.
Mr. Chairman, we've been informed right before our meeting on last Thursday that Linda Wirtz is going to retire in March of next year. We thought that we'd have her a few more years, but there's reasons that her husband had some medical problems, and I think she's looking at the big picture. Maybe it's time to spend some time with her family, and we're going to miss her, and we should be able to get a new director, I hope, soon. Hildy and I can tell you that we went through this a couple times, and we weren't really successful with a couple of them. They didn't work out. Some people interview well, but they don't work well. So we're hoping that we get the advantage to get another Linda Wirtz, because she is a great director, and we're really sad to leave her go. And I told her I wouldn't let her retire. She says, well, it isn't your choice. So she will be retiring in March. Thank you.
Thanks. Linda's been fantastic for us up there. We've had great success with the ADRC, and we will continue to move forward. But I did get that announcement about a week ago, and I saw it was announced to the board the other day. Page 129 in your packet, minutes of the Wood County Ethics Committee. That's 129, 130. Central Wisconsin State Fair Board Directors Minutes from September 12th on 131 and 132. McMillan Memorial Library Board of Trustees on 133 and 4. Supervisor Powell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can we go back to page 131? There's the list. I'm looking at that fourth dot that we have up there on that date. On the list, H.G. Wells time machine is in effect here, and we went back in time. I think there's a trouble or something wrong with that date on there from 2016. December 1st, it should probably be 2017, just to clarify it. I know that'll probably be taken up in this committee case or minutes, but.
Just date clarification in a minute.
Just right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Again, 133 was the McMillan Memorial Library Board of Trustees, as well as 134. The minutes of the University Commission meeting, May 18th, on 135 and 136. That brings me to the end of the business in the package. The last thing in the packet is a resolution relating to the life and public service of Bernice Weiland. A number of you on this board served with Bernice in various capacities over many of those years, and in fact I was shocked to see this in my packet because I was not aware of the fact that she had recently passed. And she had a career of service to not only the county but the city of Wisconsin Rapids and many of the organizations. And in respect for her passing, I would ask the board to please rise for 1 minute of silence. Thank you. And then I will take that resolution which will be forwarded on the family. I would like the motion on the resolution by Supervisor Kramer, second by Supervisor Rosa. All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. And that motion carries unanimously. I'd like that noted. I think we said it last month. Our meeting is for November 14th. I think we had that on this month's meeting too, so we got that covered. Now I do want to remind you that's our annual budget meeting here, and will occur prior to the county board meeting. So if you show up at 9:30, walking into a regular board meeting, everybody's going to be here already. You probably want to be here for the budget hearing prior to the meeting. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Is there anything else? 9 o'clock? 9 o'clock, Supervisor Wagner? Budget hearing, 9 a.m.? 9 a.m., Supervisor Fire?
Is the dispatch director here? Not, she's not. We're having a tour. Is she?
Yeah.
Okay, she's got an announcement. She wasn't.
Yeah, I was going to do it. No, you're right. I was going to get to her. She's written down here. I forgot to you guys.
Well, first I just want to say thank you. We are loving our new space. It's bright, it's airy, there's sun coming in. The morale has changed. We've seen that already. Couple of little things that you need to know. The door is locked. It is a secure location. There is a phone next to the door. Pick it up. Someone will come and get you. And no pictures, please, because we don't want to be on Facebook. That's all I have to say. You're all welcome to come down and see our new space.
What's for lunch?
I don't know, where are we going?
Again, for the, I don't know how many times, you are all welcome tomorrow for the Business After Hours event at the River Block Building. I'd love to see you there. I mean, just because we have the invitation out there doesn't mean you're not going to show up there. It would be great if you can be there. We have a 5 o'clock ribbon Supervisor Wagner?
Yeah, I want to express my regrets that I won't be at the open house tomorrow. I'll be at the Leeds, Wisconsin Municipalities Convention.
All right. Motion to Supervisor LaFontaine?
Move to adjourn.
That's what I was looking for. Second by Engel. All in favor, please signify by aye. Aye. We stand adjourned. Thank you.